Hey friend, welcome to the Coach B Experience podcast. We have another action-packed, value-stacked, real and raw episode for you. Remember, it does not benefit you to just listen. I want you to remember 3 things. Take fast action, get a result, and grow from your experiences. You have power in your choice. Let's dive into today's experiences. All right, what's up everyone? So before we begin and I really dive deep into this episode or this podcast and this experience, today I'll be sharing about what it means for me to be a black man. What it means for me to be a black coach in an industry that's heavily white, right? I'm going to be more upfront and direct. So a lot of things I may say may sound a little harsh or may sound however they sound, but understand that my intentions here is to be clear. It's not to be too politically correct, but it's to really give you the true story of how everything came to be for myself. So that way you understand what I'm talking about. And let me give you a little backstory. So this all came about because I should have posted online and I was talking about how one of my friends, I shouldn't say one of my friends, but my family member asked, like, how are you going to make money in this industry of coaching? There's not a lot of people that look like you, right? Like Bertrand, you're black, and black people don't spend money on coaching. And that's true. Black men, like I coach single men, right? And I've been deciding like, hey, should I niche down to black men only, right? But at the price point that I want to be at, there's not, I haven't seen a lot of successful black male coaches, right? That coach people, black males specifically. I haven't seen that. So I was like, okay, great. Because a lot of people always say, hey, find someone that's doing what you're doing and then mimic them. But if no one's doing what you're doing, then you're a trailblazer, right? And the person that's going to blaze the trail is going to go through a lot of ups and downs and will probably open the door for a lot of people. So am I focusing just on black males? No, I'm focusing on single men. And then again, in the earlier podcast, you can hear about, the genesis of single men movement and why I made it and all that. But here I want to really break down what it's like living life in America as a black man for me. And then also how I came to be to have this perception of being a black man. And then also like being a black coach as well. Because it's a fun dynamic, right? It's different. Like, hey, you know what? Being black and being white, you almost have, yes, we're both humans, and yes, we're both, we both do this, not to say the same thing, but life is a little bit different. And I kind of want to shine some light on it and what that looks like, right? Because the best way I can do that is by sharing a story of how I came to realize that I was not black. So it's kind of funny, right? I'm black, but I realized that I wasn't black. So growing up, I've always heard, hey, you got to work harder than your counterparts. You got to always work harder than white people. And that never stuck to me, right? I didn't understand the notion of color. I really didn't understand that even when I was young. I never really understood. I just thought, hey, like, I'm black, they're white. But the color part never came to me. It was just like, I'm a boy, they're a girl, or like, we're friends, we're not friends. Like, that's what I knew, but from a young age, I've always heard that, right? And for me, it was hard. I didn't really understand color. I never attached racism to white people because I never had a racial encounter with a white folk. And if I did, I didn't even notice, right? So my story all starts when I was living in Chicago, right? I was a little older now. I was going to school at an all-black school, right? And what happened to me was kind of funny, right? So they told me, right? All my classmates, they told me like, Bertrand, you're not black, right? And come to realize, it was because one, the way I was dressing, right? I was almost like Carlton Banks, so my mom would dress us up in like collared pants. I wore glasses. I was very intelligent, very smart. I'm still intelligent and still smart to this day. Like that's something that I will never take away from myself and I'll never discredit myself with. But the thing is that like they kept harping on this, right? They kept making fun of me.
Like I would go home crying and I'd be like, I don't want to go back to that school. I hate that school. And I lived in Chicago at the time. And also, every time I tell people I used to live in Chicago, they always tell me, "Did you live in the South Side? Well, how was that?" And it's like, guys, when I lived in Chicago, yes, I did live in like one of the quote unquote, I guess you can call it the hood, but to me, it really wasn't. Honestly, people I think build the hood up way too much and they make it seem like it's a lot dangerous than what it is. It's just like living anywhere else. You could get shot anywhere, whether it's the hood or whether it's the suburbs. At the end of the day, in the suburbs, it's just a lot quieter than in the hood, right? So, but the fact is that I was going to the school. All my black friends, I wouldn't call them friends, but my classmates were just telling me that, Bertrand, you're not black, you're white, right? Because of the way I dressed, because of the way I talked, the way I was acting. I didn't wear FUBU. I didn't sag my pants, right? My parents wouldn't let me. I wanted to be a rapper for a long time. They wouldn't let me be a rapper. But growing up, like I told you, man, it was hard. I was always told I had to work harder than white people. Never really realized that. It wasn't until I went to this black school, all black school, that they started telling me that I really started to understand the notion of color. I really started to understand what racism looks like. I really started to understand what institutional racism looks like, right? Understanding how people would actually belittle you to make themselves feel better. Now, I wouldn't really understand or even grasp that concept until I got older and I read about it and I fully understand what was going on. But my classmates felt inferior to me because of how smart I was, right? So the best way they knew how to lash out was by making me feel smaller so they could feel bigger, right? And no, I mean, no quarrels to them, but that really did shape my worldview. So you gotta understand, like, my family is from Africa. So their mentality is white people equal rich, black Americans equal no good, right? So with my family being from Africa, like, even Africans believe there's a big difference between black Americans and black Africans, right? A lot of Africans would tell you like black Americans are lazy, black Americans like they don't want to work hard, and there's always a big like racial divide, right? It's like black Africans don't go to black American spaces and tell them this stuff, but I live in both worlds. Like I'm African American, I speak French, and a lot of my African heritage, like when they come here, they're like, "Oh, why are black Americans like this?" and all that, but it's that they're just not educated. They don't understand what's going on. So, that's an uphill battle. But nevertheless, just pushing with the story, right, is that when I went to this school and I found out all these things, right, I had a big identity crisis, right? I had a huge identity crisis. I thought I was white. Like, when growing up, I was like, man, I am white. Like, I'm white. I do all this stuff. Like, I do white people things, right? And I laugh at it, but I was like, wow, I am white. Like, I can't believe I'm doing all these white people things. Like, I want to be more black. I want to be more cultured. So there was a point when I got to, and this all happened when I was in like middle school. So this was like, I would say like sixth, seventh grade. So when I was in eighth grade, and when I was going into eighth grade in my freshman year, I moved from like the quote unquote hood of Chicago to like the suburbs, where I went to this nice school. It was and I lived in a Jewish community. I'm talking about old money, like people's families have lived here. Generations of family have gone to the same school. This is probably like the sixth or seventh generation go to that school. So these folks had money. It was pretty cool. It was an all white school I went to. But I tried to push my blackness so hard at that school that it was almost like out of place, right? It just didn't fit who I was. It just wasn't me altogether, right? And I literally tried to push my blackness. I really tried, right? And it was hard for me because at the end of the day, I really couldn't fit in with the black community, if that made sense, right? Because I was trying so hard to fit in that I fit out, right? It was like I would sag my pants, but it just didn't give it the right. It just wasn't the right style for me. It just wasn't the right unction, right? It just didn't fit me, right? Like, no offense, wearing collar shirts and all that, like that fit me, right? That fit my personality, that fit my flow. Both my parents were at home. Like, a lot of my friends, like, they would tell me, like, hey, my parents aren't at home and all this stuff, right? And this is when I lived in, when I moved to Buffalo Grove, which was this, and I went to Cooper Middle School, and I went to Buffalo High School. But my parents were at home. Like all my friends' parents were at home. Like I could connect with them, and I could understand where they're coming from. And when I tried to be black and I tried to push my blackness, it just didn't work. It just really didn't work at all. But then I want to move the story forward. But then going into high school, I moved to Woodson High School. It's in Fairfax, Virginia, and it was cool. But the thing is, even there, like the first time I got there, I still try to push my blackness yet again, right? So I'm really trying to find myself as a black man, right? I have this identity crisis of me being white and me being black, and it wasn't until I had a talk with my coach, and he told me, and it was a big scene where I was gonna fight this dude, and then on the team he was like 6'3", 2 something. I was like maybe 150 or 160, like 170 if I was like all wet, drenched in sweat, and like wearing a heavy coat. But I was probably like so skinny, probably 150. And I was trying to back up a friend that I shouldn't have been backing up, but that's a long story. That's another story for another day. But the thing is that my coach told me is that Bertrand, you have great potential to be a great football player, right? But you need to come in the right when you need to commit yourself, right? And you could, and at the end of it, right? If you do that, you can be whoever you want to be, right? And he didn't tell me in that exact words but just the fact that he sat me down and he told me that, and I saw my body transform, and I saw that, by me dedicating myself, right, I got to choose who I wanted to be. By me working on myself, right, because that year that I took and I worked in a weight room, a lot of people may see the physical body change, but what they didn't see was the mental change, right? They didn't see the time that I dedicated to learning who I really was, right? They didn't understand that, I went through a period of time where I honestly, I hated being black. Right? I hated being black. I thought it was a curse, right? And then I got to a point where I hated white people then, right? And I was just like, and I hated them because everyone told me that I was like them so much that I wanted to reject that so much. I wanted to be black, right? And then it wasn't to a point where I just decided that, you know what? My name is Bertrand Ngamba. I'm not a double-minded man, right? And this is who I am. This is who I am. And I get to decide who I want to be. I don't have to be anybody else but myself. I am a black man, yes, right? But the characteristics of black, of what society portrays as being black, I don't have to live by that. I could live by my own rules. I make the rules because life is a game, and once you figure that out, you conquered it, right? You've already won. And I love that saying, and actually took that from Brandon Marshall, because I understood that all these biases that people had for me, right, for being a black man, that is their problem, not my problem, right? Even going into coaching, right? That's a whole nother realm that I'm gonna touch on. But I really want to finish the topic of being a black man. But I really want to touch on the topic of being a black man at work, right? And working in corporate America, and what they say, people call it white America, right? Let's just be honest, call it white America, because a lot of corporate jobs, you don't see a lot of minorities, right? You don't see a lot of diversity. You see a lot of white people in higher echelon areas. So sometimes it is harder to connect, right? We had, actually at my job, we had a great time talking about diversity, right? And I was kind of new, so I didn't want to share. But the thing is, for me, I don't see color. And when I say I don't see color, I mean that the first thing that comes into my mind is that, oh, you're white, da-da-da-da. First thing that comes to my mind is, what's your parents? What do you look like, right? What's your professional bearings, right? What do you talk like, right? Because that's the stuff that, maybe because I'm ingrained from the military, but like I look for that. I'm like, okay, what do you dress like for the occasion? Like if we're chilling and you're chilling, all right, cool, right? How are you speaking? What's your etiquette like? Are you elegant, right? And if we're out to eat, I'm like, all right, how much are you tipping? Right? Like, are you one of those people that's causing a headache to the server, or are you not? Right? There's little things that I really look for besides just color, right? And when I say that I don't see color, I mean that color is not the first thing that comes into my mind, right? That's not the first thing that comes into my mind. But lately, because of Black Lives Matter movement, All Lives Matter movement, Blue Lives Matter and a lot of like racial tensions have been going on, color is something that has been at the forefront of my mind. I won't even lie to you, right? Because I always try to think, okay, like in this situation, what would happen to me, right? What would I have done, right? Because you do see a lot of black people getting shot, sometimes for no reason. Sometimes I won't even say even a good. There's really, I mean, is there a good reason to shoot somebody? Hey, look, if they have a gun, you got to shoot them. At the end of the day, it's you versus them, and you got to go home, right? Like I understand, like that sounds harsh to you guys, but even in the military, I've had guys tell me like, hey, I saw a little kid, he had a bomb in his hand. How to make the choice to shoot him or die? Tough choice to make, but someone has to make that choice, right? And at the end of the day, when your life is on the line, you're always gonna pick yourself because you always want to go home, right? People always say like I would rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6, right? Meaning that I would rather make the hard choice of living, right, and being judged by a jury than to be carried by 6 people and be like, oh man, right? That's a hard choice, but I mean that's not what I'm here to talk about. But I just want to finish up this topic of being black in America and especially at work, right? Is that we had a great talk about diversity, and in that meeting, they're talking about higher level leadership and people not looking like you, and I guess I'm starting to notice that more. But even though I am seeing that, I still believe that whatever I can achieve, whatever I can put my mind to, I can achieve, right? Like my people that. And when I say my people, like Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, all these great leaders, Malcolm X, right? The Honorable Louis Farrakhan, like all these people that are pushing for equalities for black, right? All these martyrs for the civil rights movement. Everything that they put on the line it has not gone to shame, right? And if I still see myself as just a black man and I don't see myself as a 1% man, if I don't see myself as a man that can cause change, if I don't see myself as a powerful man, if I don't see myself as a man besides the color, right, then I feel like I'm kind of putting their efforts to shame, right? Because I feel like the battlefield is almost as equal, right? Because I grew up in a time period where I went to school with blacks, whites, Asians, everything. We're all mixed, right? Our generation, our millennial generation is really, really mixed, right? We're really rich in culture. We not saying we don't have this understanding, but we kind of have this understanding that life has different people in there, right? It's not just black, it's not just white. There's a big mix, right? And I would say the older generation, like my mom's and like a little older, right? 50 years ago, right, there was still that racial tension. There was a lot of racial tension, right? Even now there is racial tension, but not as much as it was back then, right? Because nowadays, like, I can walk around and not get lynched, right? I can walk to my job. I can make a complaint and it will be heard. And even if I get fired, I can go on social media and I can say something and something's going to happen, right? Like, there's going to be repercussions, right? Something's going to happen. But back in the day, like 50 years ago, like, you can get fired for being black, right? And no one's gonna say anything because that's like the norm. It was kind of like stupid under the rug. But nowadays we don't do that. Like we're actually holding people accountable. We have standards. So I believe as a black man, like I have the power to make a change. I have the power. If I want to be in upper level leadership, I can work my butt off and get up there, right? Now, may it be a little harder for me? Yes, but if me trying to work to get up into leadership is that hard, but I'm not getting lynched or I'm not getting suppressed, like I don't mind working that hard if I know that like, hey, I'm gonna be able to walk away with my life, right? I always put things into perspective. So for me, my perspective is that like I'm not getting chased around. I'm not trying to get lynched by anybody. But other people may listen to this and may laugh and may be like, "What are you talking about? This is crazy." But this is my history. Right? Black people were getting lynched. Black people were suppressed, right? And maybe I am getting suppressed at work. I don't know. But that's for them to care, not for me to care about. My job is to make sure that undeniable truth that I am the best at my position, right? So that way when they pass on a promotion on me, right? Maybe once it's like, okay, I can see that. Twice, people are like turning their heads. 3 times, people are like, yo, there's something up. This guy is the best job for the position. Why are you passing up on him? right? Like that's what I want to create. That's the way I think. I don't ever go like, oh man, I'm black, that's why they're holding me back. Oh, I'm black, that's not why they're promoting me. I say I'm gonna work so hard that I am the undeniable best person that needs to be promoted. Like they're coming to me and they're telling me, hey, do you want to get promoted? Hey, they're begging me for promotion. They're telling me about it, right? And even in the military now, right? Like I'm about to pick up my fives. I'm about to become a sergeant, right? But my sergeant and my team leader, they coming to me and saying, yo, you need to get promoted, right? Everyone believes in me. Everyone said, hey, Bertrand, you're gonna drop a packet to get promoted. Why? Because I have made it the undeniable truth that I am the best at what I'm doing, right? And I have showed up and showed out consistently, right? And I haven't done this because I want somebody to come tell me that I should be promoted. I've done this because I am working for myself and working for God, right? That everything I do, I work so hard and make sure that I give my best, right? That every time my number is called, that people know, like, yo, Bertrand's gonna do it. Bertrand got it. He got my back, or he's gonna complete it, right? Or I can trust him to get this done, right? So that's what it looks like for me when I go to work, right? As a black man, I want to be the undeniable truth, right? And now, back in the day, like the way that people look and stare at me, like it used to kind of offend me. It used to kind of like rub me the wrong way, but now it's like normal, right? And how this works is kind of funny because my when I was dating a white girl, she noticed it more than me, right? She was telling me, why are people looking at you like that? Why do people kind of get startled when they see you? And I was like, huh? And I didn't notice it until I started just kind of noticing it, bring it to my attention. But black, excuse me, but white women and white men, sometimes when they're talking to me, they'll kind of back up a little bit or lean a little bit back because they just don't know, or they might say something a little more like hesitant, right? They might be a little standoffish. It's just a slight turn of their body, right? But they don't notice that they're doing it, but it's more like a defensive mechanism for them. But those things like that, and people sometimes just get scared and startled. They're like, oh my God, like you're yelling, and a lot of times I'm seen as aggressive because of my passion, right? Like I talk with a loud voice, right? I'm very passionate. I'm very passionate about the things I do. I love my job. I love coaching. I love if I'm doing something, I'm doing it full, all heart in, all minds in, like my whole body, my whole essence is into what I'm doing, right? So a lot of times I get mistaken for yelling at people when I'm really passionate at people. So that's something that, I've learned to, kind of tone down, but sometimes I don't tone it down. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't care. You're going to get the real me, the raw me, 100%, right? And that goes even into coaching, right? Because this is the best pivot to go into my coaching, right? So being in the industry of being a black coach and that's dominated by, white coaches, right? Like the top coach in the world is Tony Robbins, a white dude, right? A lot of top coaches like Zig Ziglar. The only black coach that I know of, right, is Les Brown. Besides that, I'm trying to think. I'm really trying to think of some, right? You have Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher, but Eric Thomas, I don't know. Like I don't know, but he's not a businessman. He's a motivational speaker, right? You have other guys, but they're all motivational speakers, right? All motivational speakers that have some traumatic story of whether they used to be a football player or some type of musician or whatever. Then they transition into being speakers, right? But for me, I'm a coach. I'm straight up a coach. Like I'm a results coach. I'm a life coach. A lot of people call me a life coach, results coach. Hey, whatever. At the end of the day, I get you results. Boom. But plain and simple is that being a black guy, being a black coach, right? In a space that's dominated by a majority of white men, right? You kind of have to find your footing, right? You have to prove yourself a lot more, right? And the caliber of people that come to you and you tell them your prices, they're like, oh, I don't know, like, are you worth it, right? It's like I have to prove my worth a lot more, right? And to me, that's not a bad thing at all, right? That's more me. That gets me more excited Because when someone says yes to me, that means like, yo, like I'm on the right path, right? And even and maybe it just means my sales skills is not that great. Okay, cool. Maybe I have to work on that. But I do know that a lot of our community, they're not spending money on coaching. They're not spending 10K, 25K on coaching, right? I talked to another great black coach, and he's in brand and marketing space, and we talked about that. Our our people, black people, they're not spending 25K on marketing. They're not spending, 30, 50K, 100K to go to some retreat, right? To them, that's just not fathom. That's not fathomable, right? They're not thinking about that, right? They're thinking about, well, how am I going to pay the next bill, right? Or everyone in the black community is always talking about, oh, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke, right? Like, that's what I deal with as a coach, and that's the uphill battle that I have to get through, right? So that's kind of what it looks like being a black man in America, right? And to kind of sum it all up, and let me touch on the point of racism, right? Because I think this is also a great time to touch on racism, right? And I feel like I've been jumping around, but I kind of maybe not been. But I hope this has been a little enlightening. But let's talk about racism, right? So I firmly believe that my generation, right, and I talk about my generation as millennial generation, is that we're really understanding how to blend together, right? That everyone has backgrounds and different cultures and diversity, and now you have the explosion of LGBT community, and you have a lot more people that are coming out. And I don't know the correct term, whether it's like you have more lesbians and more gay men coming out, right? And we're really understanding this idea of being inclusive instead of exclusive, right? We're really opening up communities. We're really opening up a lot of amazing things for people, right? But the fact is that my generation is starting to understand that, but my mom's and dad's generations, right, they're living in that status quo. Their eyes are getting opened as they're starting to see the way we're living, right? As we get older and they die off, you know what I mean? Because they're gonna die someday, right? When they die off, right, we're gonna start spreading that inclusiveness, right? Because now you're seeing the younger generations, everybody's working together. Black, white, it doesn't matter. People are just like, all right, cool. We're so connected now, right? That racism, it's still there, it's still going, right? But because of the power of social media, when it happens, we're calling it out, right? We're acting on it right away. We're not just letting it seep around. We're not just saying, well, it's not my problem. The whole world is getting involved. And that's what I love about our generation. That's what I love about my generation, is because we are getting involved in the fight of it, right? And how does this tie into being, black man in America and a black coach? This makes me feel wanted. This makes me feel loved. This makes me feel like, okay, people care about me, right? And at all times, I don't always feel like, oh, I'm a black man. But sometimes when I do feel like that, it's great to have people that have my back. It's great to have people that say, you know what, bro, like, I still love you, right? Like I have great friends, right, of all races and colors, right, that just say, hey, look, it doesn't matter that you're black or white. I love you because of your content. I love you because of the way you write. I love you because of what you say, right? Like a lot of people if you don't understand, just the little things that people tell me helps me to keep going, right? I had somebody invest some money into my business. Right? I never thought in a million years that somebody would come to me and say, hey, Bertrand, here's some money. I love your mission. I love what you're doing. Like, keep going. Right? And that, to me, that really set a fire on me and say, all right, cool, I can do this. Right? Because it's hard sometimes to be a trailblazer the way I'm blazing a trail, right? Where you don't see a lot of black successful coaches in front of you that you can model. And you're just like, okay, how do I make this work? How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I transition past this path, right? How do I go up this uphill battle and show my community that I can still be of value as a life coach to them, right? How do I show them my value? How do I show that I can actually help them, right? How do I do that? And when you're a black man and you're doing it by yourself, right? it's so imperative for me, and this is why I talk about the inner circle, right? It's so important for me to have that inner circle of men that I can talk to and that can give me that encouragement or that can give me that talking and say, hey, you're thinking about it all wrong. You need to be thinking about it like this. You need to be thinking about it like this, or you need to be doing this or that, or don't focus on that. That's gonna come. Focus on still producing good content. Focus on getting yourself out there. But and the thing is, as a black man, I'm 26 years old. I'm about to be 27 years old. I've never been arrested. I've shot a gun because of the military, but I've never had any problem with the police, right? Never had any encounter besides speeding tickets and whatnot. But I'm a best-selling author, right? How many black people can say that? Black men can say that, right? And not playing the compare game, but I want to say what society's view of being black is versus what I've actually accomplished. I am completely off the chart. Right? I am on the opposite spectrum of being black, right? Compared to what society's view has for me, right? That I should have been arrested already, that I should have a drug charge or whatever, right? That I am completely off the tracks of what it means to be black. I am so successful as a black man right now that it's almost unfathomable for society to even think of me as a black man. Why? Because they have never seen a man like me do what I'm doing, right? And every black person that goes to college and is educated, you're breaking society's stereotype of black people, right? Every black person that works at a corporate job, like you're breaking society's standard of being black. Every black person that has either written a book or even hit bestseller, whatever it is that you've done, you are breaking society's mold, right? Every black man that reaches the age of 21 that's finished high school and that's never had a police encounter, you're breaking the mold of what it means to be a black man in America. Right? And you are helping shape that, right? And I also say this too as well, like when I go places, I have to be cognitive, right? I have to be aware. Let me stop using big words I think I'm just gonna keep using them all wrong. You're gonna keep laughing at me. But I have to be aware of how the next black person comes in here is gonna be perceived. Right? And like that even goes out when I'm eating in restaurants or whatever, is I don't want to act a certain way and nullify the perspective of black people to the way they see people on BET, right? And this goes back to when I was in college, right? The first black person that a lot of my friends ever encountered was me. In college, right? And this is 2010. And the reason being is because they lived in a lot of small white towns. So when they came to college, the first time they had encounters with black people. Right? Like my girlfriend that I dated in college, I was the first black guy she ever talked to, ever, dated, slept with. It was like, oh, okay, cool. Right? So a lot of like her first times with black people with a black man or a black person was with me. So she was like, oh, you're different than what black people are on TV, or you're different than what I thought you would be, right? I got this question. I keep telling people, like, I seriously got this question. People ask me, do I carry a gun and do I have drugs on me? Like, right? Because, and you know what they told me? They said, well, BET said, and I was like, I can't believe that you guys really thought BET was real, like BET. And this is why I think it's so important that as black people, we represent ourselves in the best light. I always do, right? And I always do this, and I don't do this just for myself. I do this for other black people, right? So that way I always leave that door open for people not to have that closed vision about black people. Right, and you can call it me being an Uncle Tom or whatever it is, but I make sure that that I hold myself to a certain standard, I hold myself to a certain value, that I act a certain way, so that way when other black people are received, they're received with open arms instead of closed arms. Right, I don't want us to be seen as ghetto or trashy or whatever that is. Right, whatever BET or whatever some amazing whatever ratchet videos are out there of us. Right. But, understand, like, we all have a ratchet side. That's cool. But we got to understand that, like, people are still viewing us from a standpoint of TV, right? Like, whatever BET says or MTV says about us, these rap videos, like, people are actually believing that as law for black people, right? And before I go and not make this any longer, I want to say is that I love my experiences as a black man. I love my experiences as a black coach, right? I think this is amazing. I think, I believe I'm a trailblazer. I definitely believe that. I definitely believe that people are going to get a lot of value from hearing this podcast, because this is a topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about. This is a topic that I think there's a lot of topics that I can touch on that a lot of people can't touch on, right? Because one, I'm part of the minority group, right? So a lot of things that I say or are gonna be listened to because people are like, oh wow, okay, cool, you're talking about it, right? You're talking about certain issues. You're bringing up certain things, right? And I'll say this, as a 1% man, I believe that there's certain things that we have to bring up in this topic that we have to talk about, and we have to be willing and open to listening to other people's point of view as well. Like, I don't mind sitting down and talking to somebody that doesn't believe that, black people and white people are equal. Okay, great. Why don't you? Okay, cool. Let me listen to what you have to say, right? That's the thing. Like, we have to be able to sit down and have these conversations because this is what's going to drive the world forward, right? Us just staying in our bubbles is not going to drive the world forward, right? At the end of the day, the world is mixed. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic. There's so many cultures, so much heritage. So at the end of the day, I'm going to stop rambling, but I'll say this is that you make your life what you want it to be, right? That's all I'm gonna say. You make your life whatever you want it to be. And if you guys have any comments or questions and all that, hey, post it below. Let's talk about this. I'm gonna open the dialogue up. And if you're a black man or even a white woman or white man or whatever you are, right? Whatever you want to talk about, like, post it below. Let's talk about it. If you want to bring up maybe LGBT stuff, maybe you want to see there's certain things that you want to talk about, like, put it below in the comments. So let's talk about it. Let's open that dialogue up because this is where we're going to learn from each other. And let's respectfully listen to each other instead of just, trying to be heard, right? Let's have a discussion. Let's just not try to make points, but let's listen to each other and hear each other out. All right, with that being said, remember, you make your life what you want it to be. If you just want to be known as a black man and that's it, and just be held down by that standard of society, then that's all you're going to be held down to. But if you want to flourish and think you are powerful and great and you can do whatever you can and whatever you want, like, you can have that expansion mindset as well too. But remember, you make that choice, no one else. All right, guys, later.
Hey, my good friend, thank you for listening. Reviews matter, so please leave us a review so other amazing people just like you can find us and listen to us. Also, remember to join us in our free Facebook group so we can build a real relationship and get to know each other. And you will find other extraordinary men and women on similar journey as you. Do not forget, take action on just one thing you heard today. Get a result from that and grow from your experience from that result. You have power in your choice. Until next time, my good friend, I'll see you later. This is Coach B.